Hi, I'm Ken Sisk, and welcome to Wood, Stone, and Steel. Today, we are at All Saints Memorial Episcopal Church in Navesink, New Jersey. It's also known as the Stone Church. The reason we selected this site is because it contains many of the natural materials we love to see in structures throughout the world. And so we'll take you on our journey, and you'll find out why they call it the Stone Church. The Stone Church is located in Monmouth County, New Jersey, in the Navesink section of Middletown Township. It's just a couple of minutes away from Sandy Hook Bay, located about 20 miles south of New York City. In the 1860s, affluent families from New York City and northern New Jersey began to build summer homes in the Navesink area, but also wanted to continue their children's religious education during the summer. Reverend William N. Dunnell, the rector of Trinity Church in Red Bank, accommodated these families by holding weeknight services at the Riceville Schoolhouse. A fun fact is that Riceville, which is now Navesink, obtained its name from Rice Hatzel, who once owned a general store in the area. Two of these affluent families, the Stevens and the Milners, were the original founders of the Stone Church. John Henry Stevens immigrated to the United States from the Isle of Wight in the United Kingdom and eventually settled in Riceville. Charles E. Milner, originally a Philadelphia Quaker, married one of Stevens' daughters and was ousted from the Quaker community because he married an Episcopalian. As a result, Mr. Milner was welcomed into the Episcopalian community. As the congregation grew, Mr. Milner began a school program which had up to 70 children enrolled in a very short period of time. Jeanette Stevens, one of the daughters of John Henry Stevens, was a devout member of the congregation and wanted to establish a church, but her quest was cut short due to her untimely death. Her father, John Henry Stevens, her brother-in-law, Charles Milner, and her husband, James Edgar, fulfilled her wishes by constructing the church in her memory. When envisioning the church's design, John Henry Stevens asked that it be patterned after the church he attended in the Isle of Wight. We don't know the name of the church he attended, but after doing some investigation, I found three similar churches in the Isle of Wight. They are St. Boniface, St. Peter's, and St. Edmund's. As you can see, the inspiration for the Stone Church was taken from these Gothic-style churches. In particular, St. Boniface has both internal and external similarities. The single-aisle pews, their cruciform shape, and timbered vaulted ceilings. Isn't it remarkable how we become attached to churches and buildings we grow up in and around? These structures create a sense of place and time for all of us. They are a touchstone. John Henry Stevens understood the importance of continuity when it came to a place of worship. Many churches of prominence, including the Stone Church, employ stone masonry and large timbers in their construction. The combination of the use of natural materials blended with skillful architectural design and artisanal hands produced these memorable structures. The founders of All Saints Memorial Episcopal Church believed only one man was capable of designing the Gothic Revival church they desired. His name was Richard Upjohn. The Upjohn firm at this time was considered to be the most prestigious practitioner of the Gothic style, and they were without peers in church building. Richard Upjohn was one of the founders and the first president of the American Institute of Architects. He was just over 60 years old when he took on the design of the Stone Church. Mr. Upjohn is best known for his work on Trinity Church at the intersection of Wall Street and Broadway in Lower Manhattan, and you movie buffs might recognize this church from the 2004 blockbuster National Treasure with Nicolas Cage.
Just like that? Just like that.
On October 7th, 1863, the cornerstone was laid by the Bishop of New Jersey, the Right Reverend William Henry Odenheimer. Odenheimer, along with Bishop George Washington Doane of Burlington and Bishop J.M. Wainwright of Trinity Church in New York City, were the three most powerful Episcopalians in the United States at mid-century, and all three commissioned Upjohn churches. Once the inspiration, financing, and design of the church was completed, the last step was to construct the church. As with many monumental buildings and structures of the past, we usually know who the owner and architect were, but there are very few records about who the lead craftsmen and artisans are. These unsung heroes are the ones who bring these buildings to life. We often pass by them and don't appreciate the expertise and artistry required to build these awe-inspiring structures. But luckily, I was able to find the names of 3 tradesmen who were associated with the construction of the stone church. George Riker was a carpenter from Newark, New Jersey. He produced elaborate carpentry for the furnishings of the church. In February 1864, Mr. Riker signed an agreement to make the chancel furniture for $375. Sounds like an incredible bargain in today's dollars. The designers specified that the woodworking was to be made of the best chestnut, oiled twice, and would consist of a bishop's chair, chancel rail, altar, credence table, 4 stalls, stools, sevilla, and a lectern. He probably also made the large cabinet against the south wall of the sacristy. The next tradesman was Owen Doremus from Montclair, New Jersey. He made most of the stained glass windows. His name frequently appears in the design specifications of Richard Upjohn's works. Other original windows at All Saints were the work of glassmaker Henry E. Sharp from New York City. Later on, some additional glasswork was performed.
Let me show you one interesting thing. Most of the time, when you come to churches and you see stained glass, you never know who the artisan is. As I was looking at this particular one, I came across who the artisan is. Made in the studios of George L. Payne, Paterson, New Jersey, London, England. This is a very nice find because there's not many times the artist actually tells you that he made this.
The last tradesman was local mason Nimrod Woodward. He was responsible for foundations, peanut stone facades, and beige sandstone trim called Dorchester stone. Dorchester stone had been recently introduced to the United States when All Saints was being constructed. Its name derives from the place where it was first quarried, in the parish of Dorchester, at the head of the Bay of Fundy in Canada. The peanut stone used in this church is thought to have been quarried from the nearby Hartshorn property. Technically, peanut stone is a conglomerate sandstone formed from the cementation of sand and gravel over millions of years. The matrix holding the pebbles together is typically iron oxide, giving the stone that reddish-brown color.
And here is the reason why they call it the Stone Church. It's a huge field of what we call peanut stone, and it's every version. It's a variated rock, and they call it peanut stone because at certain stones you will see little aggregate within it, which looks like peanuts. Take a look here. That's pretty incredible. And then you'll see all the different types of peanut stone. It really has a lot of iron in it, which makes it extremely strong and heavy. So there's a lot of sand. So these are really in more sand environments where a lot of water flow came through the lower areas. And this stone wears incredibly because it is iron within the sand. And so this peanut stone, if you look at the large field of the building, with the mortar joints, it starts to look more like a picture, like a mosaic. It looks beautiful. It's all irregular, no pieces uniform, and that's the beauty of peanut stone and how it looks.
All right, here's an example of some peanut stone. I found this as I was redoing my front porch. So we dug down to put a foundation in, and lo and behold, we found some peanut stone. So as you can see, this peanut stone has that reddish brown color because there's a lot of iron in here. There's sand and iron. Iron is actually the matrix that holds the sand together. And within the stone, it's a conglomerate stone, so you can see the different types of rock. These are quartz, and it actually looks like a peanut here and there. Hence the name peanut stone. This stone is used in this area in the past for low wall type of foundation walls. Also, I've seen it used in curbing, even throughout the community. Nimrod Woodward was 32 years old when he bravely took on the masonry work for the stone church. He had a large crew and would have as many as 9 foundations going on at any one time. Mr. Woodward went on to many other large projects in the area, including Our Lady of Perpetual Help in Highlands, and both the Baptist Church and Knights of Pythias Hall in Atlantic Highlands. In 1895, Mr. Woodward began work on the historic stone bridge. Just like the stone church, it is also made of peanut stone. The bridge spans Grand Avenue in Atlantic Highlands at the foot of what used to be called Breakneck Hill. Due to his attention to detail and quality of work, he was highly sought after and was known to be one of the busiest men in the township. The church's construction was finally completed in 1864. The stone church and its supporting structures are a prime example of Gothic revival architecture. This was a movement that started in England in the second half of the 18th century and drew inspiration from the Gothic architectural style of the Middle Ages. The primary design element of Gothic revival architecture is the pointed arch. Additional elements include the pointed rib vault, flying buttresses, elaborate tracery, and the use of varied materials and stained glass windows. Richard Upjohn was a fervent proponent of Gothic revival architecture. He was partially responsible for bringing this movement over to the United States, along with architects Alexander Jackson Davis and Andrew Jackson Downing. Most of his work involved designing churches as well as residences and civic buildings. His grandson, Everett M. Upjohn, was an art history professor at Columbia University. He wrote Mr. Upjohn's biography and had this to say about him. To build a church was to him not merely a means of earning a livelihood, but still more an act of devotion, a visible proof of a steadfast faith which remained with him through life. You can still feel this devotion when you enter the stone church. The parish house or parish hall originally was built to serve as a Sunday school. Its high Victorian characteristics suggest that it is the work of Richard Mitchell Upjohn rather than his father. The parish hall was completed by 1866. The major alteration to the parish house was an addition in 1958-59, designed by local architect A. Eldridge Brower. The extension is on a north-south axis like the original building, but it doubled the footprint of the structure. When you enter the parish house, you can still see the northern exterior wall. References to the rectory's construction appear in the vestry minutes of October 16, 1869. The congregation had raised $3,000 and a plan had been submitted. It is likely the plans were developed by Richard Mitchell Upjohn. The rectory is an imposing building due to its height and sharply pitched roof and the fact that it is sitting on high ground. The construction of the rectory was completed in 1870. Prior to the widespread use of the automobile, horse-drawn carriages were the main mode of transportation. Because of this, a carriage shed became necessary. The carriage shed is composed of 3 sections. The first section was constructed prior to 1890. The second was added in 1907, and the third section includes a storage area with additional stalls. The barn was planned at the same time as the rectory in 1870 and cost $750. It was originally 2 separate buildings, one for the horse stalls and hayloft, and the other for tack and tools. Later on, the 2 buildings were conjoined to provide space for a carriage. Originally, the church's property was only about 2 acres. An additional lot was acquired in 1869 for the construction of the rectory. In 1930, more acreage was added for the expansion of the cemetery, bringing the total to just over 6 acres. A large family plot was set aside in the church cemetery for the founders. Members of the Stevens, Milner, Washington, Gillette, and Ketchum families are buried here. One interesting fact is that Neil Burgess is buried at All Saints. He was a famous stage actor and comedian from the 1800s. His vaudevillian performances brought him accolades and wealth. His wife, Mary Stoddard, and his son, Nielsen Burgess Jr., were both actors and are both buried at All Saints as well. We wanted to get a sense of how All Saints Church impacts the community, so we decided to speak with long-standing parishioner Laura Matlaga about her connection with the Stone Church.
Yeah, one of the interesting things is, why did they build the church with a facade made of peanut stone? Normally churches are, let's say, limestone, brick, But this is peanut stone. It's very unique. It's beautiful.
Well, right. And the reason why they built it with the peanut stone, because the stone is indigenous to the area. So it has a flavor for where you know, when you look at the peanut stone, you know that it's from this region, Atlantic Highlands, Highlands. They built the, many of the Victorians, like we live in a Victorian in Atlantic Highlands, and we have two beautiful stone walls of peanut stone. So, and then because it was so large in variety and you had so much of it that they used the stone from the area. I mean, all they had to do was dig up, and you're still finding it to this day.
One of the things about our show, Wood, Stone, and Steel, is that it's buildings and structures that are made with natural materials, and it brings you closer to nature. And I want to hear from you, like, how do you feel when you come into a structure like this? You see the stone outside, you see the wood floors, wood pews. How does it make you feel versus, say, going to the dentist office?
It makes me feel very grounded, and when you walk into the church, I instantly got a feeling of belonging. Because with all this beautiful wood, I love trees because they're very grounding. I admit, I am a tree hugger.
Yeah.
And there's just something about the strength of a tree. So when I walk into this church and I see all this beautiful woodwork, it's not just about the pews, but it's about the person that actually did all the details in the wood, and their name, their signature was in all the beautiful carvings in the wood. So it really meant something. It was their name, and then they were known for that.
If buildings, structures, residences were built more with natural materials, would it lead to a bigger sense of community with the people that are living in them and know of them and are attached to them? Would it make them feel like they're more connected or more grounded?
I think so, more grounded, but also a sense of community. It's also, when you're using like the natural materials from the area, there's like a connection there. There's a connection, and there's a history behind all that, right? So even our house has like a lot of pine, and pine is hard to work with because it's very soft, but there was such abundance of it in this area. So when you're using materials from the area, it's not only is it a connection, but there's a lot of historians that love to form groups and to go to other historical places and just find the peace and calm in it, to sit and to meditate and to be one in its space. Because I believe everything has an energy. Even a rock has a vibration energy. So when you're around all this wood and the rock and the stone, it's actually very soothing, it's calming, and I believe it brings you, gives you a sense of community for each other. And you want to help, and you want to help keep it restored.
Any famous parishioners that we may know?
Yes, actually. For many years we had Bruce Springsteen, which was a big donor of our church, and his children and a sister would come to the church. And just signing an autograph raised a lot of money on a picture when we would have our church auction every year.
The Stone Church was placed on the New Jersey State Register of Historic Places in 1973, the National Register in 1974, and designated a National Historic Landmark in 1988. The Stone Church is a prime example of how impactful the use of natural materials is in the built environment. The history of the church makes it even more memorable. The next time you drive by the Stone Church, you'll be able to appreciate what it took to construct this beautiful church and its supporting buildings, and how it has stood the test of time as a result of its attention to detail and the use of durable natural materials. And if you're anywhere near the Sandy Hook Bay, you should definitely make it a point to visit the Stone Church.
Stay tuned for our next episode about a newly constructed timber frame barn in Middletown, New Jersey, which houses a mint 1953 antique Ford pickup truck. We also were recently in the United Kingdom for 10 days, traveling over 1,500 miles to meet some incredible artisans and craftsmen, including Elizabethan plastering, blacksmithing, woodworking, and a beautiful manor house in the Cotswold. So if you like this type of material, hit like and subscribe. If you don't like it, hit the like button 3 times.